Hi, in this session, we will be discussing 10 very important questions for the upcoming INI set exam. My first question is: a man presents to the ER with an elevated temperature, sweating is there, increased rate of breathing is there. He had been spraying insecticide, right, and accidentally inhaled some of the poison. In ER, it is given that the rate of oxygen consumption by the cells was much greater than the absence of when the compound is absent in the cell culture. This drug is acting most likely which of the following? So we have a name of four compounds here, and the thing is all these are lethal to the body, right? Keep word is the rate of oxygen consumption by the cell was much greater after being exposed to the insecticides, and there is an elevated temperature, body temperature, and the sweating. Definitely whenever any person by accident consumes the poisons, then he has shortness of breath, delusions are there, all these things are there. But here the elevated temperature and the rate of oxygen consumptions are our key points. A choice is dinitrophenol, which is the correct choice for this patient. That patient has been exposed to DNP, right? What is dinitrophenol? It is a phenol based product. It is a phenol based product. Earlier it was used as a weight loss agent. Even nowadays also it is used as a weight loss agent, but in America US FDA has banned its use because of its toxic effects, because it is toxic in nature and it can cause death. Accidental exposure to DNP results in hyperthermia. Why hyperthermia? I'll explain you soon. Tachycardia. Most of the poisonous substance, they show the tachycardia, right? Diaphoresis is there. Tachypnea is there, right? What is dinitrophenol in biochemistry term? It is an uncoupler or proton 4 uncoupler. When we talk about electron transport chain, it uncouples the electron transport chain, thereby inhibiting the formation of the ATP. It is proton 4. It does not allow the protons in the inner mitochondrial membrane to come inside the mitochondrial matrix to help us synthesize ATP. Rather, it redirects its route, thereby increasing the body temperature. It is proton 4 or proton ionophore. It allows protons to leak across the inner mitochondrial membrane, thereby halting the process of the ATP synthesis. Okay, so this is what this DNP is about. His history: it is a weight loss agent, right? It causes hypothermia. Few important points for examination is DNP increases the basal metabolic rate. Please note it down: basic metabolic rate, right? And how it is used as a weight loss agent is because what it does is it helps in losing the body weight by burning more of the fat and the carbs. Increased burning of fats and carbs, right? If this is consumed, person can lose weight up to 1.5 kg per week, right? What it does is it decreases the high energy phosphate. High energy phosphate, what is high energy phosphate? High energy phosphate is your ATP in mitochondria. It decreases ATP in the mitochondria. It increases systemic oxygen consumption. That is given in the question. The thing about DNP is it increases systemic oxygen consumption, and it interferes with the funnel pathway by preventing uptake of. It prevents, or you can write it down, it prevents uptake of inorganic phosphate, pi. The way I write it is it prevents the uptake of pi in the like pi molecules, thereby increasing the pi concentration, right? It is not consumed, so the inorganic phosphate concentration is increased in the external mitochondria. Okay, moving further here, it increases with increased exposure, metabolic rate is increased. That is indicative of the increased temperature, right? More fat is burned in order to compensate for the inefficiency, right? Weight loss. It is an uncoupler, it is a proton 4, or you can say the proton ionophore. What it really does is it acts here. These protons in the electron transport chain should come inside the mitochondrial matrix via this route. What it does is it reroutes these protons, right? That's why it is known as proton ionophore or uncoupler. This is how DNP works. Second, which is our choice. Second is the carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide patient shows the excess breathing. We are not talking about increased consumption of oxygen here. There is metabolic rate is not being increased. Just excess breathing is there to compensate the reduced oxygen inside the lungs. What happens is carbon monoxide is an odorless and colorless gas. It is odorless and colorless gas. It has very high affinity for hemoglobin as compared to the oxygen. So as soon as hemoglobin sees the carbon monoxide, it prefers to bind with the carbon monoxide as compared to the oxygen. So we form, rather than making oxyhemoglobin concentration decreases, whereas carboxyhemoglobin concentration keeps on increasing. So there will be also, other than these concentration decrease of oxyhemoglobin, it makes tissues deficient in oxygen uptake. This is very important point to remember. It makes tissues deficient for oxygen intake, right? Or you can say poor tissue intake is there. But there is no increase in temperature, and there is no increase in oxygen consumption, which was given in the question. So that's why carbon monoxide is not the choice, but I'm just trying to explain it. It gives the flu-like symptoms, like the patient will have the headache, dizziness, fatigue, weakness, confusion, shortness of breath, chest pain, right? Blurry and the double vision. Right. One more important point to make here is carbon monoxide is produced because of the unburnt particles, right? And other than the hemoglobin, it has very, very high affinity for the myoglobin. Myoglobin has affinity for the carbon monoxide is way much higher as compared to the hemoglobin. That is why when the carbon monoxide binds to the myoglobin, it causes myocardial depression. Myocardial depression. Or you can say hypotension is there. Arrhythmias are seen. And because of this myocardial depression, there is hypoxia, leading to the death. This is one of the this is a silent killer. So in earlier days, whenever you have some kind of angitis burning in the room, there are unburnt particles, and many people have been found dead in the room because of the unburnt particles, because of the carbon monoxide present in the room. So that days they always prefer, whenever you have something burning inside the room while sleeping in the winter, keep the windows open for the proper oxygen consumption. Otherwise, there are higher chances of the death. Okay, so this is about carbon monoxide. We have discussed in detail in the classes about the carbon monoxide poisoning. Let's move further. For the next choice was the cyanide poisoning. Cyanide interferes with the cellular respiration, right? Resulting in the body tissues being unable to use oxygen. So again, there is not increase in oxygen consumption, but cyanide is inhibiting the oxygen consumption. That why it was not the choice in this question. What does cyanide does is, you have these COX enzyme, cyclooxygenase enzyme in your body, that what it has is, it has a ferrous center. Cyanide binds to it. Cyanide binds to it, thereby inhibiting the potent COX, right, which results in excess breathing, right, and prevents the electron passage, thereby blocking the electron transport chain, right. This what is happen. Fatal dose can be as low as 1.5 milligram per kg body weight. This is the fatal dose, right. In Africa, there are this compound cassava roots. They contain cyanide, and many people, while hunting, while in forest, while eating the cassava roots, earlier it was not known it contains the cyanide. Many people have died because of this poisoning. What other factors causes the cyanide poisoning? I'll tell you a little bit more in detail because of the exam, right. Because of the unburned polymer that are used in the synthesis of the few of the resins. Okay, so burning polymer. Can cause the cyanide poisoning. And which polymer? Which has the nitrile into it, right. For example, polyurethane, right. Breakdown of nitroprusside, also causes cyanide poisoning. Pesticides have cyanides, pesticides consumption. Few of the pesticides are there. Insecticides, very common things in the household, and especially for the people, they are working in the fields. Tobacco smoke also causes the cyanide poisoning, right. Smoke from the building and the building fires, whenever something is burning, that also can cause the cyanide poisoning. And the cassava fruits, many a time I have seen this in the back exams. Cassava and the bamboo shoots, they also causes the cyanide poisoning. And another things are many seeds and the kernels of, like say, almonds, orange, apricots, apples, bitter in taste, they have the cyanide in it, right? So this is how it works. Cyanide binds to the heme center of the COX, making converting into the ferrohemoglobin, which is incapable to carry the oxygen. Thereby, oxygen is decreased, and hence the person dies. Antidote can be given is the nitrile. Okay, nitrile can be given as the antidote. Nitrile competes for this ferrohemoglobin, making it ferrihemoglobin, right, and removes the cyanide from it, right, so that hemoglobin can carry the oxygen. This is how it works. Last option was the rotenone. What is a rotenone? It is a broad spectrum insecticide and the pesticide. It again interferes with the electron transport chain, but the complex one in the mitochondria. What it does is it inhibits the transfer, right? Also, since electron transfer is inhibited, it also makes the oxygen radicals, which are very reactive species, and it damages the DNA and another mitochondrial complex. It also causes, rotenone also causes Parkinson's disease also. This is about the rotenone. So choice was your dinitrophenol. Dinitrophenol is an insecticide that will cause the increased in body temperature, sweating, and increased oxygen consumption after the body or the patient is being exposed to this insecticide. Remember, the severity depends upon for how long the patient is being exposed to insecticide and in how much amount. So usually first thing is the washing, make patient vomit as soon as possible. And for DNP, you can also give activated charcoal as soon as possible, maybe within 10 minutes, patient can be saved. This is another slide I pulled out for you, very important, might prove as an important slide for exam. In this, I am just trying to show you that in electron transport chain, complex 1 is inhibited by rotenone, complex 2 inhibitor is trifluoroacetone, complex 3 inhibitor is either antimycin or moxothiazole, complex 4 inhibitor is cyanide. Many times I have seen this question asked in one way or the another way, what are the inhibitors, or let's say they will throw a question, cyanide inhibits which of the pathways, choice A, B, C, D. Cyanide inhibits the complex 4 of the electron transport chains, thereby halting the ATP synthesis and the oxygen consumption. Oxygen is not being consumed by the tissues because it inhibits the COX enzyme. Next question I would like to discuss is which vitamin can be synthesized in the body. Actually, vitamins are of two types. We know that. We have water soluble vitamins. We have fat soluble vitamins. Fat soluble vitamins are 4, right? I remember it as date, like date khajur, right? Date. Vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin E. These 4 are fat soluble vitamins. Water soluble vitamins are 9, right? 9 water soluble vitamins. Vitamin B are 8. Then you have vitamin C. Okay, so these are the water soluble vitamins. Okay, vitamins are usually consumed in the micro amounts. Many people, they use the multivitamins to compensate for the body, because it is said that our body cannot synthesize the vitamins. We have to eat it from the food, or we have to take it from the outside. But human can synthesize 2 vitamins. One is vitamin D3 and then is niacin. These are synthesized by the body, right? In our body, also in gut, we have the bacteria, right? Bacteria also helps in the synthesis of the vitamin. So which vitamins are synthesized by the bacteria? Vitamin K and biotin. These are synthesized by the bacteria. Remember this for exam. Since the question is asking you which vitamin can be synthesized in the body, pantothenic acid, niacin, folic acid, vitamin B12. So our choice is B, that is niacin can be synthesized in the body. Niacin is synthesized from the tryptophan. Right? So this is about the vitamins that we have 9 water soluble vitamins, 4 fat soluble vitamins. Vitamin D3 and niacin is synthesized by the body. Vitamin K and biotin is synthesized in the body by the bacteria, but not by the body, in the body. Okay, that is different. Then I have this chart for you for your quick review for the examination. In this, I have vitamin A, also known as retinol. Common name is retinol. It causes loss of vision, or you can say the blindness. Deficiency of vitamin K, also known as a phyloquinone, right? It deficiency cause irregular and slow blood bleeding and clotting, bleeding diastasis, right? Vitamin D, commonly called as calciferol, right, is related to the bones and near the joints, causes rickets in the kids and osteomalacia in adults. Cyanocobalamin, or you can say vitamin B12, is related to the abnormal absorption in the small intestine, pernicious anemia, right? Vitamin B1, thiamine, also known as a thiamine, is related to beriberi disease, Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, right? Confabulations, patient make up the story, and usually chronic alcoholics are suffering from this disease because alcohol reduces the absorption of the vitamin B1. Vitamin B3, niacin, is the pellagra, diarrhea, dermatitis, 3 Ds we talk about, right? Cazel's necklace, बहुत बार क्वेश्चन देखा है हमने एग्जाम में, right? So this is just to brief you about the vitamins. You can take a detailed look into this also. I have another table for you for the minerals. Calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium and phosphorus are the important ones we talk about. Magnesium, chronic alcoholics have the problem leading to the prolonged diarrhea, right? Phosphorus is related to the loss of calcium phosphate crystals from the skeleton, right? Calcium loss can make bones porous and tooth decay, leading to the osteoporosis, right? Sodium deficiency can lead to hyponatremia and dehydration. In one or another way, you can see these questions in these keywords in the exam. Let's move to the third question. This is about the pH. What will be the pH of the solution containing hydrogen ions in the concentration of the 5 millimoles? What is pH? We know that pH is negative log of hydrogen ion concentration, or sometimes H positive or H3O positive. We know that it is one and the same thing. So the concentration of hydrogen ion given is 5 millimoles, or you can say 0.003 moles, or 5, or you can say 5 times 10 raised to power minus 3 moles, right? If you will take the negative log of 5 times 10 raised to power minus 3, then you will end up having 2.3, which is C. That is the correct choice. So this is the answer for this question, right? We know in generally the pH ranges from 0 to 14, right? If H positive, hydrogen ion concentration is high, the solution would be acidic, right? Or hydrogen ion high concentration means pH would be less than 7, right? And all the acids, they are the donors of the protons or hydronium ions, and base are the acceptors, right? Acid gives out this and base gives out this. According to the Arrhenius and the Lewis acid base theory, acid gives out proton, base gives out hydroxyl, or accepts base accepts protons also. There are like many definitions we know, right? Here the pH of few important things we should know of the extracellular fluid is approximately 7.4, right? pH of the blood, the standard is 7.35 to 7.45. If pH goes beyond 6.8, if pH goes beyond 6.8, like it can lead to death. Alkalosis or alkalemia is pH above 7.45. If this is more than 7.45, it will cause the alkalemia. If it is less than this 7.35, it will cause the acidosis, right? To maintain the blood pH in the body, we have the buffer system. We have how the pH is controlled via the buffer system. You have the buffer system in the body. Via respiratory mechanism, pH is controlled, and also via the renal excretion. These are the three methods. So briefly take a look at it from the notes. Buffer systems, the bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer system, phosphate buffer system, plasma protein, and the hemoglobin buffer system. 4 buffer systems we have discussed in the class. In the respiratory mechanism, inhaling and exhaling of the carbon dioxide and oxygen, how the pH is maintained by that, and the renal excretion, in which we talk about the reclamation of the carbonic acid and the hydrogen ion excretion, and the renal production of the ammonia and excretion of the ammonium ions. Make sure you read through the isohydric and the chloride shift also. Those are also important topic. Next question is this: a 30-year-old man is diagnosed with type 1 familial dyslipidemia. Recent laboratory studies showed that there is an elevated triglyceride level but normal LDL and HDL cholesterol level. Okay, so what we have here is type 1 familial dyslipidemia, and we have elevated TG, increased TG, right? But LDL and HDL cholesterols are normal, right? So the answer is very obvious. Answer is choice B, that is, choice C, that is lipoprotein lipase deficiency, right? Which is also known as type 1 dyslipidemia. It cannot be choice D, because choice D is type 5 dyslipidemia, also known as mixed hypertriglyceridemia, right? Why mixed hypertriglyceridemia? What is the name of this? VLDL cholesterol clearance deficiency, means VLDL is not being cleared, hence there will be increased VLDL level with the increased triglyceride level. That's why the name mixed hypertriglyceridemia. Okay, and in this, the plasma is, you will see in the exam the foamy plasma appearance, which is not occurring in the given question, so this is not the choice. When we talk about the correct choice, that is lipoprotein lipase. Okay, what lipoprotein lipase does is if you follow my right thing, lipoprotein lipase occurs in the capillary walls. These are the capillaries of the small intestine, liver, your adipose tissues, right? What this enzyme does is, this enzyme cleaves the triglyceride into free fatty acid plus the glycerol, right? So here is these are the hydrolysis of the triglycerides in the capillaries, giving rise to glycerol and the fatty acid. Glycerol upon breakdown can be stored in the adipose tissue, whereas the fatty acid either is stored in the adipose tissue or it can be used in the muscles for in the form of the ATP as an energy source, either burnt or stored. Fats can be burnt or the stored, whereas the glycerol is stored in the adipose tissue. This is how it works. To work, the lipoprotein lipase LPL requires an assistant that is apolipoprotein C2, right? So type 1 familial dyslipidemia जो question में given है, that is because of LPL deficiency, but LPL requires apolipoprotein C2. So any deficiency or any issues related to apolipoprotein C2 leads to problem with the LPL, thereby giving rise to टाइप 1 फेमिलियल डिसलिपिडीमिया. सो रिमेंबर, एग्जाम में किसी तरीके से भी क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं, एलपीएल का डेफिशिएंसी हो गया है या एपोलाइपोप्रोटीन C2 के डेफिशिएंसी से क्या होगा. It will give rise to elevated triglyceride level, but the HDL level and LDL will remain the same. Okay, so this is our answer. In this क्वेश्चन में क्या लिखा होगा, VLDL का लेवल बढ़ गया. LDL cholesterol receptor deficiency. Since this receptor is deficient, so in the question you will see LDL level is not normal, but it has been increased with the triglyceride levels, right? What is apolipoprotein E doing is, apolipoprotein removes the remnants of the VLDL. When this is deficient, then their VLDL cholesterol level increases. And question में exam में you will see xanthomas are present, and it is always associated with some other conditions such as diabetes. ठीक है, तो apolipoprotein E की deficiency अगर पूछा होगा question में, you will see the xanthomas and the VLDL cholesterol remnants are there. Okay, अगर VLDL cholesterol clearance deficiency होगा तो definitely you will see the VLDL and you will see the word foamy appearance, not the xanthomas. Lipoprotein lipase में what you will see is the normal LDL and the HDL cholesterol levels. Remember the names. So usually इतने ही questions पूछते हैं from this thing. I don't think there is any other critical question from this. Another question I pulled out for you is method of transport of glucose in intestine. Well, we know that glucose is needed for the synthesis of the ATP. That is how our body works, and glucose is either absorbed through the glucose is absorbed in the body via two mechanisms. Either you have the secondary active transport and then you have the passive transport. In the intestine, it is via secondary active transport, not the passive transport. So first of all, this is our answer, right? So how the glucose is absorbed is is via secondary active transport in the intestine. Okay. The passive transport is usually glut. Your glut 1 through 4 is very important for you to know for the examination point of view. Secondary active transport includes your SGLT, SGLT1, SGLT2. इतना ही important तुम्हें याद रखना पड़ता है एग्जाम के लिए. And the method of glucose uptake depends upon two factors. Remember this, दो factors हैं which will determine the glucose uptake. One is the metabolic need of the tissue. Very important point to remember, need will decide whether to take up the glucose, synthesize the glucose, or break down the glycogen. That is one important. And another is availability. Kitna available hai blood glucose. That way determines the glucose uptake. And there are two ways for the glucose uptake. One is the secondary active transport. Second is the passive transport, or also known as the facilitated diffusion. We will not discuss these in detail since we have discussed this in class also, given in the notes also, right? Facilitated diffusion is GLUT1 to GLUT4. Important things about GLUT is GLUT1 and GLUT3, right, is found in the plasma membrane, throughout the body, right? What it does is it maintains basal rate, right? Basal rate is approximately 5 millimolar. You should know that, right? And the Km, the affinity for the GLUT1 and GLUT3 for the glucose is approximately 1 millimolar. So it has very high affinity. Km is 1 millimolar, a smaller number. Lower Km, we know from Michaelis-Menten, means the high affinity. GLUT1 and GLUT3 has a high affinity for the glucose, right? And Km is 1 millimolar. We should know that. It maintains the basal glucose uptake, that is 5 millimolar. Another important point to remember, that is related to GLUT1 and GLUT3. It is found in plasma membrane throughout the body, right? Now coming back to GLUT2. GLUT2 is found in the plasma membrane again, but exclusively of the hepatocytes, right? In this you have very high Km. Km is 15 to 20 millimolar. If high Km, it means low affinity. GLUT2 has low affinity for glucose. Now last is GLUT4. I have seen this in the previous exam also. GLUT4 is insulin sensitive. Sometimes question have been asked in the exam, which glucose transport is hormone sensitive? They don't give the name insulin. So GLUT4 is hormone sensitive, and that hormone is insulin, and it is found in muscles and adipose tissues. Why muscles and adipose tissue? Because muscles is the primary storage site of glucose. And why adipose tissue? Because the adipose tissue is primary storage site of triglycerides, right? So this is what I wanted to discuss you, like an extra edge points for the examination. Method of transport for glucose in the intestine is secondary active transport, right? But also GLUT2. This is a paper. What it is trying, why I have pulled out this is, earlier it was a myth that it is just the SGLT, or you can say the secondary active transport, not the facilitated diffusion. But in this, they have established that after intake and ingestion, carbohydrates are absorbed in the small intestine by the two-step transport system. First is via SGLT and then is via GLUT2, right? SGLT is a symporter. It is a symporter located is a sodium dependent glucose transporter. And then after this main SGLT transportation is done, then glucose is transported via GLUT2, which is located in the basolateral membrane. It is a two-step process. But question exam में अगर पूछा गया है, our answer should be the SGLT or secondary active process, then the GLUT. But both are correct. If SGLT2 plus SGLT plus GLUT2 is given, वो भी choice सही है. If SGLT is given, वो भी choice सही है. ठीक है ना. If both are given as a different choice, then we have to pick SGLT or secondary active transport process. That will be our priority, not the GLUT2, but it is a two-step transport process. Another choices given was the simple diffusion. Simple diffusion is just the molecules such as water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, ethanol, urea. They just move back and forth from the cell membrane without needing of the energy. Active transport requires energy. In duodenum, jejunum, amino acid transport requires energy. Sodium, potassium pump, calcium ions in the cardiac muscles, glucose molecule के movement में, macrophaging ingesting bacterial cells, they all are related to the active transport and requires energy. Next question is very important point. I wish to discuss it in detail, but here we will go just in brief. Best investigation for the metabolic disorders, right? Metabolic disorders are so many out there, and we should know about this. What are metabolic disorders? Metabolic disorders are clusters, right, of condition that occur together, increasing your risk of heart disease, increasing the risk of stroke, type 2 diabetes, okay, and they include your high BP, high blood sugar. They are you have a excess body fat, especially around the waist, right? कमर का size बड़ा हो गया है. And then you have abnormal cholesterol or triglyceride levels. Causes for the metabolic disorders are well known. 3 major causes of metabolic disorder: overweight, obesity, and inactivity. Major metabolic disorders we talk about are inborn errors of the metabolisms, right? Which are major inborn errors of metabolism, very important for examination point of view, are PKU, your phenyl ketone urea. Then you have your maple syrup urine disorder, MSUD. Then you have tyrosinemia. Make sure you revise all these, the causes, the genes involved, and the enzyme that is involved, and what are the symptoms seen. Like sometimes it is given the urine becomes black upon standing. Then these orange crystals in the diapers. Then the fruity smell in the urine. All these kind of hints are given in the question. So brush through up all these points. The PKU, MSUD, tyrosinemia, citrullinemia is another important inborn error of metabolism. Then MCAD deficiency. MCAD is medium chain, right, deficiency. Then you have methylmalonic acidemia. Methylmalonic acidemia, right? And the best investigation for all these metabolic disorders are very obvious, very straightforward question, is done via tandem mass spectrometry. Western blot is used for protein. Remember, we have 4 blotting technique. Major ones are the southern blotting, western blotting, eastern blotting, northern blotting. The way I remember western blotting is west side. West side मेरा favorite clothing store है, so west side is a perfect site. For me is west is per perfect, west is per perfect. So western blot is per protein, ठीक है. So Western blot is for protein identification. PCR nowadays very well known. It is usually to amplify the amount of DNA you have, right? PCR works with the DNA. If you have sample RNA, ठीक है, RNA होता है तो वो PCR नहीं, we call it as RT-PCR. We first convert RNA into DNA and then normal PCR is done. The gel electrophoresis is for the purification, for the separation of the proteins, your DNA and RNA. कोई भी sample है, we like बहुत bunch of proteins आ गए हैं, अलग अलग molecular weight और sizes के हैं. So based upon their molecular weight, their charge, we separate them on the gel electrophoresis. So usually क्या होता है, earlier you have a sample, blood sample, that is a mix, ठीक है. तो उस mix वाले sample को what we separate the proteins, DNA, RNAs, वो सब separate करते हैं. Then we take one portion out of it. DNA का ले लिया, तो DNA is in very small minute quantity. Then we go ahead and PCR से उसको amplify कर लेते हैं. Then we can run the mass spectrometry also sometimes to figure it out, okay, कि कौन सा present है और कौन सा नहीं है. For metabolic disorders, definitely we go ahead and do the tandem mass spectrometry. There is no ifs and buts about it. We just do it. Okay, so this is, let me erase this first. This is a pictorial representation of this mass spectrometry. Right here you see all the down here a little tiny feet of a newborn baby, right? And after 24 hours the baby is born. Heel prick test nowadays is done to detect the inborn error of metabolism. Okay, so on the blotting paper or on a tissue paper via capillary, a dried blood spot is being taken, right? And from this dried blood spot, the red stain, the metabolites are extracted, which are the tandem mass analysis is done, and then via various calculations on a screen of a panel or a computer, you see the blood mass spectra from which we can detect if the phenylketonuria, your MSUD, or all these inherited diseases are present or not. So this gives you the early diagnosis so that precautions are being taken early stages. So this is how in real life from my lab, how your tandem mass spectrometry looks like. All the results, they come up on the screen, right? All these solutions are used. These are various disorders, metabolic disorders based upon their category: hyperammonemia, hyperglycemia, metabolic acidosis, right? Ketonuria. These are name of the metabolic disorders which falls in these categories. So they are bunch. Western blot, which is not the correct choice for this question, but still I wanted you to give you a few important points. Western blot is used for the detection of the single protein or the protein modification. Single protein and protein modification, these two things, okay, such as post-translational modifications. For the protein production after cloning, verify karna whether we have made the right protein or not in the test tube. For diagnostics, HIV testing के लिए use करते हैं. It is a definitive test. Very important question. It is a definitive test for variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, also known as the mad cow disease, bovine spongiform disease, or encephalopathy, right? It is a kind of a prion disease related to the brain. So definitive test, this is important question. What is the definitive test for this Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? This is Western blot is being used. Western blot is also used for tularemia. Confirmatory test, another important point. Confirmatory test for Hep B and herpes type 2 infection. Some form of Lyme's disease has also been detected using the Western blot technique. Okay. And world anti-doping agencies, when the athletes, to enhance their efficiency, they use all those steroids. So the agency, to detect those, they also make use of the Western blot technique to detect whether there is any steroid available in the blood or serum of the athlete or not. Another choice was polymerase chain reaction, which is not used for the metabolic disorders but used to amplify the DNA, right? Amplification. छोटा सा है, थोड़ा सा है, 2 या 3 DNA है, उसके 1000 DNA we have to make. That's why when the polymerase chain reaction is done, right? PCR, its components are the DNA sample, primers चाहिए, nucleotides चाहिए, Taq polymerase चाहिए. Taq polymerase is a heat resistant polymerase. Then you have a buffer, you have PCR tube, then you throw it in the thermal cycler. 4 cycles हम चलाते हैं. We amplify it, right? 2 raised to power n. There are 3 steps of the cycle. First, denaturation, that is separation of the strands. Then annealing. Annealing is separates दोनों DNA के strands separate हो गए हैं. Then primer is going to go and anneal to it, and then elongation. उसके बाद Taq polymerase nucleotides को उठा के उस DNA का एक कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री सीक्वेंस बनाएगा. सो एवरी टाइम 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, हर बार 2 times बढ़ता जाता है. दिस इज द PCR, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टेस्ट टू नो nowadays because of the corona pandemic. Last choice was the gel electrophoresis. Gel electrophoresis is used to separate mixtures of DNA, RNA according to the based upon the molecular size and charge. This question has been asked many times in previous exams also. So gel electrophoresis is for molecular charge and molecular size and the charge. This is how the gel electrophoresis works. After this, like, you have the gel electrophoresis that can be an agarose gel or acrylamide gel. ठीक है, separate हो गए हैं. You can just cut this portion out, put it in the test your Eppendorf tube and further process it. And this is how finally fluorescence of it. All these are the samples. All these fluorescence are the samples. So based upon which sample you are looking for, you can just scratch or scoop this out. Question number 7 is about for the transcription of selenocysteine, the codon is very important thing. The selenocysteine, what is a selenocysteine? Selenocysteine we know is an amino acid. It is a 21st amino acid that is present in the body. We usually talk about 20 amino acid, but this is 21st amino acid. Like in cysteine you have the sulfur. In selenocysteine, sulfur is replaced by the selenium. इतना ही डिफरेंस है. सिस्टीन में सल्फर है, सेलिनोसिस्टीन में selenium है instead of the sulfur. Okay, codon. It is coded by your stop codon, which is UGA. We know there are how many codons are there? There are how many codons are there? 64. There are 64 codons. Why 64 codons? How can you calculate? You have 4 bases: A, G, adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. Right? One codon is made up of 3 bases. Right? So total codon is 4 bases time raised to power 1 codon, that is 3 bases. That's how we calculate. There are 4 codons. In this 64 codons, one is the start codon. That is always methionine, FMET, remember that, right? And then there are 3 stop codons: UA, UAG, UGA. Right? Also, this is AUG. So you have 3 stop codons. So 4 ये हो गए, 1 start and 3 stop codon. Whenever you have the codon UGA, that is going to code for the selenocysteine. How we will know whether to stop the transcription or to insert the selenocysteine? Well, this is how we know it, right? So this is 5 prime to 3 prime. ठीक है, initiation codon is there, and then here is UGA, your selenocysteine incorporation site. Well, downstream, after the real stop codon, when we have to stop the termination, down that lane you have CKIS sequence, selenocysteine insertion sequence. If that sequence is present, the case binding protein binds to it, which further triggers the elongation factor SEC, that is EFSC. That it tells that not to stop but incorporate the SEC in there. Okay, so SECIS, selenocysteine insertion sequence, should be present downstream after the termination codon. That talks to the cis binding protein, which further triggers the elongation factor of the SEC when to insert the selenocysteine. Okay, coming back is a 21st amino acid, and it is a cysteine analog. In cysteine you have sulfur, in selenocysteine in place of sulfur you have selenium ion, right? It is found in eubacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes also, right? Just for your information, one more information I want to give you here in this question is the difference. There is now selenocysteine. We know cysteine. Now there is a cysteine. Many times, many people have asked, in many exams I have seen this question also. Difference between cysteine and cysteine is, in cysteine you have SH, but cysteine is combination of two cysteine molecules, one cysteine, and when it binds you see two S are there, H is gone. That makes cysteine. So cysteine and cysteine is different. This tables is briefing you between the difference between these two. Cysteine is less soluble, more stable, formed by oxidation. It is regarded as semi-essential, and it is not easily absorbed as cysteine because hydrogen has been removed. Hydrogen makes it more water soluble, more absorbent, and more ready to use. But hydrogen bonding makes it less stable also, right? तो इतना पता होना चाहिए. And cysteine is a non-essential amino acid. Selenocysteine, cysteine, cysteine. This question covers all these three things. Question number 8, a topic you can say, right? All of the following can occur in mitochondria except, we know what is mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Powerhouse जहाँ से सारी की सारी electricity, or you can say in short form energy generate होती है, right? So mitochondria does a lot. Mitochondria is kind of a self-sustaining thing like a cell. It has its own DNA, right? So it can synthesize the DNA, it can synthesize the protein also. So DNA synthesis is done because you have the mitochondrial DNA. Beta oxidation of fatty acid is happening in the mitochondria, except if you have very long chain fatty acid, then the beta oxidation takes place in the lysosomes. Small chain fatty acids, beta oxidation happens in the mitochondria. Fatty acid synthesis never occurs. So this is the choice. Protein synthesis does occur. Mitochondria, they contain the ribosomes in the inner cristae. Here, I guess I have a diagram for you. Here. So this is your mitochondria. So here you have the ribosomes. They help in the protein synthesis. Okay, then you have in the inner folds, these are the inner folds. Here you have the oxysomes. Okay, mitochondria are powerhouse of the cell, so helps in the synthesis of the ATP. They regulate the immunity, maintain the calcium balance, cell death and renewal, or you can say autophagy, stem cell regulation. These are all the functions of mitochondria. Another uh, important question that might have been asked in the exam. Since it has own DNA and RNA, so does the DNA synthesis also. The glycolysis, glycogenolysis, FA synthesis. Okay, so synthesis of glucose, I should say. Glycolysis is glucose बना रहे हैं, glycolysis is, sorry, breakdown of glucose. Glycogenolysis is breakdown of glycogen. FA synthesis, all they happen in the cytoplasm. Okay, many time in over the Google it has been written glycolysis is done in this mitochondria. That is untrue, very untrue. Glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm only. Fatty acid degradation happens in the mitochondria. Polysaccharide degradation, whereas helpers in the lysosomes. Well, when we talk about the beta oxidation, I have made you very clear the beta oxidation of fatty acids. The smaller ones can be degraded in the mitochondria, but if you have very long chain fatty acids, then the degradation is done in the lysosomes, not in the this. Then you have electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation, you can say citric acid cycle. All these happens in the mitochondria also. Okay. Question number 9 is the dry blood spot test is commonly done in the infants, right? The similar question I have discussed before also for this metabolic disorders. Okay, so dried blood spot is testing is commonly done in the infants for inborn errors of metabolism, right? IEM in the short form. This test was done by very famous Robert Guthrie. Right, for the large scale neonatal screening of PKU. Initially in 1960s he has given it. After that this DBS testing become very common. Initially it was used for PKU, then for the syphilis, then it also has been used for the Hep B, HIV infections also. Okay, bilirubin testing, before going further in the bilirubin testing and the Coombs test, okay, the DBS test is different than the rapid test, and usually it is being used when there is no blood testing facility around, so it is hard to carry the blood as such. Then that time the dried blood spot preserves the blood sample and helps in the detection of the disease. Okay, so DBS is of two types actually. You have the capillary blood method also. DBS sampling is done two ways. The capillary method, capillary blood collection. For the capillary blood collection is one is you do is the blood is directly deposited on the filter paper. Then you have the peripheral venous blood collection also. Venous blood collection, that is done using the pipette, right? Capillary blood collection is for the infants, heel is used, and for the children and the adults you use the level of the digital pulp. Okay, for the children heel prick method has been used. Okay, the disadvantage of the DBS is the return visit is requested. Major advantage is in very remote areas जहाँ पे blood collection हो ही नहीं सकता है और medical की इतनी सुविधाएं नहीं है, that hard to reach populations, DBS is a very big advantage. Okay, inborn errors of metabolism is, you should know that 24 hours after 24 hours of the birth, usually after the baby is born, we know 2 days baby is being kept in the nursery, in the hospital you can say. After 2 days वो discharge कर देते हैं. That are also the rules for the health insurance also. So 24 hours के बाद में heel prick test is done to check for the inborn errors of the metabolism. After 48 hours, baby can be discharged if found healthy. Bilirubin testing is done for the jaundice, anemia, and liver disease. Coombs test is to detect the antibody to indicate the hemolytic anemia. Okay. So last topic for this session is the floppy infant syndrome. Very, very important question. Very, very important topic to be revised for the exam. Floppy infant syndrome, FIS. Floppy infant syndrome, FIS, also known as the rag doll syndrome. Rag doll syndrome. It is characterized by hypotonia. But you will see in question frog leg posture. And it usually disappears with age in many cases. With age. And how it happens? Usually during the pregnancy, if the pregnant lady consumes too much of benzodiazepine. During pregnancy. Increases the chances of FIS. If during the labor, when the baby is being born, if there is an increased dosage of the diazepam, that also increases the chances of FIS. If diazepam is given intramuscular or intravenous, increased dose can this. FIS actually is an umbrella term. FIS can happen because of the neuromuscular disorder, or maybe CNS disorder, both. Out of these, CNS disorders are more common for the FIS, okay? And in this, baby is suffering for what? This is very obvious answer, acid maltase deficiency, right? Which happens because of the problem in defect in the GA gene, GAA gene, which leads to the deficiency of the acid maltase, and also known as acid alpha glucosidase. एक ही नाम है, sorry, one enzyme and 2-3 names. Alpha glucosidase, कुछ भी लिखा हुआ दे सकते हो, right? Also known as acid maltase, which is an lysosomal enzyme. The function of this enzyme is to help in the breakdown of a glycogen. Glycogen is a sticky substance. If it is not breaking up down properly, it accumulates inside the cells, which leads to severe muscular pains and hypotonia, all those characteristics. So these are the few floppy infant syndrome you can see in the exam. In this, we are talking about the Pompe's disease because of the acid maltase deficiency. The Pompe's disease hai, but in exam you may have any of these diseases because all these shows the floppy infant syndrome characteristics. Okay. And there are 3 kind of Pompe's diseases there. You have Pompe's disease, 3 forms: classical form, non-classical form, and then you have late onset type. Classical form begins within the few months of birth. Non-classical is usually appears by age 1, right? And late onset type is like it not become apparent until like the childhood, right? In all the cases, patient has the breathing issues, myopathy, hypotonia, hepatomegaly, all these things are there, heart defects, enlarged liver. Okay, so these has been seen in the patients. Okay, Before we go further to the next slide, I want to share something with you. Few cheat sheets, you can say, revision points for the exam. Menkes syndrome, right? It is because of ATP7A gene. Very important question for the exam, related to ATPase enzyme, which regulates copper levels. Pompe's disease we have just discussed. It is an lysosomal disorder. Zellweger syndrome is peroxisomal. Another important topic, peroxisomal, because of acyl coenzyme A oxidase deficiency. ठीक है. Another common thing is here is Fragile X syndrome here. Fragile X syndrome, it is caused by FMRP protein, right? Prader-Willi syndrome down here, PWS, right? It is related to prohormone convertase 1, or in exam, if this question is being asked, you will see PC1, right, leading to the obesity and the growth hormone deficiency. Angelman syndrome is a form of an autism, right, because of the deletion and the mutation in UBE3A gene. में क्या क्या हो गया है? Either deletion हो गया है और mutation हो गया, right? Enzyme involved, and this gene is present in chromosome number 15, right? It is related to ubiquitin protein ligase E3A gene, right? Ubiquitin protein ligase E3A gene, right? And then you have the Down syndrome. Down syndrome is caused by trisomy. You have 3 copies of chromosomes rather than 2, right? So this is about it. And in this last slide, here is the Pompe's disease, right? Lysosomal alpha glucosidase, also known as acid maltase, leads clinical features are heart failure and cardiomyopathy, death in first 6 months. So this is the answer. And the von Gerke disease is because of the glucose 6 phosphatase enzyme deficiency. You see hepatomegaly, hypoglycemia, stunted growth, opacity, hypotonia. What you don't see here is the renal disorders. ठीक है, रीनल नहीं सुन देखते हो आप इसके अंदर वॉन गर्के डिजीज में. रिमेंबर दिस फॉर एग्जाम. मैकआर्डल डिजीज इज अनदर मस्कुलर डिजीजेस, बट इसमें क्या होता है, it occurs in the adults. Here we are talking about a very small little baby, so ये नहीं हो सकता है. Anderson disease is because of the branching enzyme, right? Remember ABCD, मेरा ABCD याद है. Anderson disease is for the branching. Cory's disease is the deficiency of the debranching enzyme. Okay. In this slide, these are the accumulation of the glycogen, because enzyme is deficient. Glycogen is being accumulated inside the cell, which is very, very sticky, giving rise to this floppy infant syndrome in this case. Right, choice B. Thank you and good luck for your exam, and I'm pretty sure you will do great. Just be confident and do it. Leave rest up to God. Give your 100%. Good luck.